You're focusing on the wrong thing, and that's why you feel stuck. Think about your day. How much time do you spend worrying about what others think, comparing yourself, or chasing things that promise happiness but never deliver? Most of us live on autopilot, reacting to notifications, messages, and endless distractions, while the things that really shape our life go unnoticed. What if the problem isn't your effort or talent, but where your attention goes every single day? Every thought you have, every habit you repeat, and every decision you make is quietly creating your life. Most people never notice this. They keep spinning their wheels, chasing results that feel empty, or focusing on things that don't matter. But it doesn't have to be that way. In this video, you'll learn how to see clearly what really matters, train your mind to focus on growth, and stop wasting energy on things that hold you back. You'll discover practical steps you can use today to take control of your thoughts, actions, and your life. This isn't theory, this is real actionable guidance to change your focus and finally start seeing results. Chapter 1. Question why you chase things that don't fulfill you. You wake up every morning with a plan in your mind. You have things to do, goals to reach, tasks waiting for you. You move through the day, and by the end of it, you're exhausted. You've been busy all day, but somewhere deep down, you feel empty. You worked hard, you stayed active, but you don't feel fulfilled. You feel like something is missing, even though you've been chasing what you thought was important. That's a sign you're focusing on the wrong thing. Most people spend years running after things they believe will make them happy. Money, attention, status, recognition. They put in their time, their health, and their energy, hoping that one day they'll feel complete. But when they finally reach what they were chasing, they look around and realize it doesn't give them what they were looking for. That's a painful truth many discover too late. So the first question to ask yourself is this: why are you chasing what you're chasing? Do you truly want it, or are you doing it because everyone else says it's what success looks like? See, human nature is funny. We're taught from a young age to measure life by what we have, not by who we are. You grow up hearing things like get a good job, make a lot of money, buy the nice car, build a name. Those are fine things to have, but none of them define your worth or happiness. Think about it. How many people have everything they ever wanted, yet they still feel lost? How many achieve their goals only to ask themselves, now what? The problem isn't that they failed to achieve, it's that they were chasing something that never truly fulfilled them. They were running after approval, not purpose. Fulfillment doesn't come from the outside, it comes from living in alignment with your values. You can fool everyone around you with success, but you can't fool yourself. Deep inside you know when you're doing something that doesn't connect with who you are. You can feel it in your body. It shows up as stress, restlessness, frustration, that quiet voice that says, this isn't it. If your life feels off, it's because you're not chasing what truly fulfills you. You're chasing what the world told you to want, and that's where so many people lose their way. They confuse achievement with satisfaction, and busyness with purpose. They collect goals like trophies, but forget to ask whether those goals make them feel alive. You see, the mind always wants to achieve more, but the heart just wants to feel peace. When you spend your life chasing things that only feed your ego, you end up tired, disconnected, and empty. But when you focus on what feeds your soul, growth, contribution, love, meaning, you find something deeper. You find fulfillment. So ask yourself today, what are you really chasing? Is it approval? Is it comfort? Is it fear of being left behind? Most people don't realize that the reason they want certain things is because they're afraid of not being enough without them. They think, once I have this, then I'll be happy. But that kind of thinking keeps happiness always out of reach. Fulfillment isn't something you find later. It's something you build daily by choosing what matters. You build it when your actions match your value. You build it when you stop trying to impress others and start improving yourself. You build it when you wake up in the morning and say, "I'm proud of the person I'm becoming." That's what it means to question what you're chasing. Don't just ask, "What do I want?" Ask, "Why do I want it?" If your why is weak, the result will never satisfy you. You'll achieve it, celebrate it for a moment, and then start looking for something else. But when your why is strong, even small progress feels meaningful. Think about the times in your life when you felt proud of yourself. Not because someone praised you, but because you did something that mattered to you. Maybe it was helping someone without expecting anything back. Maybe it was staying disciplined when no one was watching. Maybe it was facing your fears and growing through them. Those moments give a kind of satisfaction that no trophy can replace. That's real fulfillment. Many people don't chase what fulfills them because it doesn't always look shiny at first. Growth takes time. Discipline feels uncomfortable. Patience feels boring. But these are the things that build character. And character builds fulfillment. You can't live a deeply meaningful life if you keep avoiding what challenges you. If you spend your life chasing easy rewards, you'll always end up feeling empty. But if you chase growth, purpose, and contribution, you'll find peace even in the struggle, because then every step you take feels right. You're no longer running from something, you're running towards something that matters. It takes courage to question what you've been taught to value. It takes strength to admit that maybe you've been climbing the wrong ladder. But once you see that truth, you gain power. You can start again with clarity. You can decide to build a life that actually feels good on the inside, not just looks good on the outside. You don't need to throw away your goals. You just need to make sure they're yours. Make sure they come from your heart, not from comparison or fear. Because if your goals aren't connected to your truth, every win will still feel like a loss. Every day, you have two choices. You can chase what impresses others, or you can chase what fulfills you. One will keep you anxious, the other will keep you grounded. One will drain your energy, the other will fill it. You already know which one feels better. And remember, fulfillment doesn't always come from big things. It often comes from small intentional actions. Spending time with someone you love, learning something new, doing work that matters, taking care of your health, appreciating what you already have. When you start focusing on these things, you'll notice your life feeling lighter, calmer, more meaningful. The reason most people never feel fulfilled is because they never slow down long enough to ask what really matters. They're so busy trying to prove themselves that they forget to be themselves. But when you stop and reflect, even for a few minutes, you'll start to see what's truly worth your time. Ask yourself these simple questions. What makes me feel alive? What gives me peace? What am I doing that doesn't align with who I want to be? These questions can change your life if you answer them honestly, because clarity is the beginning of direction, and direction creates fulfillment. Life isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. You could spend your whole life chasing everything and still feel like you have nothing, or you could focus on what fulfills you and feel complete even with less. The difference isn't in what you have, it's in what you value. Sometimes the hardest part of growth is realizing that what you've been chasing isn't meant for you, but that realization isn't failure, it's freedom. It gives you the chance to redirect your energy towards something real. You don't need to start over from zero, you just need to start from clarity. Fulfillment isn't about success, it's about alignment. When what you think, what you say, and what you do all line up, you feel peace. You don't need constant validation. You don't need to prove anything. You just live in truth. So if your life feels off track, don't rush to do more. Pause, reflect. Ask yourself whether what you're chasing is truly fulfilling you. Are you doing it because you love it, or because you're afraid not to? Are you moving forward with purpose, or just moving to keep up? When you start choosing fulfillment over approval, something powerful happens. You stop needing everything to be perfect. You stop worrying about what others think. You start showing up for yourself. You start living your life, not someone else's version of success. Every day you have energy to give. Don't waste it on things that don't feed your soul. Give your best to what makes you proud, peaceful, and alive. Because in the end, no one remembers how busy you were. They remember how real you were. So before you chase anything else, stop and ask, is this what fulfills me? Does this bring meaning to my life? If the answer is no, it's time to refocus. It's time to shift your energy from what looks good to what feels right. Because once you do that, everything changes. You'll stop running and start living. You'll stop chasing happiness and start creating it. You'll find a calm confidence that doesn't depend on what you achieve, but on who you become. And that's when life finally feels right. Because you're no longer focusing on the wrong thing. You're focusing on what truly fulfills you. Chapter 2. Train your mind to notice what truly matters. Your mind is constantly being pulled in 100 different directions. Every day, there are distractions, notifications, demands, and pressures that demand your attention. Most people react automatically to whatever comes their way. They let their attention drift from one thing to another without thinking, and at the end of the day, they wonder why they feel scattered, stressed, and unfulfilled. Learning to train your mind to notice what truly matters is one of the most important skills you can develop in life. It's not just about being busy, it's about being purposeful. It's not just about moving forward, it's about moving in the right direction. The first step in training your mind is becoming aware of what you're paying attention to. Most of us think attention is something that happens automatically. We assume we see what's important, but in reality, our brains are wired to react to urgency over significance. That flashing notification on your phone feels important, even if it doesn't move your life forward. That email demanding an immediate response takes your focus, even if it isn't connected to your real goals. The mind naturally prioritizes what is loud, fast, and present, and that often keeps you from seeing what's meaningful. Awareness is the foundation of change. If you don't notice where your attention goes, you'll never be able to control it. Begin by observing your daily habits. Notice what you check first thing in the morning. Notice how often your mind drifts when you're trying to focus on something important. Notice how much time you spend worrying about things that won't matter in a week, a month, or a year. This simple act of observation is powerful because it brings clarity. The more you observe, the more you can choose. Once you notice where your attention naturally goes, the next step is deciding where it should go. Train yourself to ask a simple question throughout the day. Does this matter? Not everything that is urgent is important. Not everything that demands your attention deserves your energy. This question alone changes the way you engage with life. It forces you to pause before reacting, and that pause is where control begins. Training your mind also means creating habits that reinforce focus. The human brain is a pattern-seeking machine, and it thrives on repetition. When you repeatedly direct your attention to things that matter, your brain becomes better at noticing them automatically. This requires intentional practice. Start small, set aside time each day to focus on your most meaningful tasks without interruption. Protect this time fiercely. The world is full of people and situations ready to pull your attention away. Your job is to build boundaries that protect your focus. Another important part of training your mind is learning to filter information. In today's world, information is abundant. News, social media, emails, messages, and advertisements are constantly demanding your attention. Most of this input has no real value to your life. Learning to filter out what is irrelevant allows your mind to concentrate on what actually shapes your future. Decide what sources of information are worth your energy and ignore the rest. Curate your mental diet as carefully as you would curate your physical diet. Mind training also involves strengthening your ability to recognize your emotions. Emotions are powerful signals, but they can also hijack your attention if you're not aware. When fear, frustration, or desire take control, your mind drifts toward distractions. By noticing your emotions without judgment, you gain insight into what truly matters. Ask yourself why a particular thought or feeling is drawing your attention. Is it guiding you toward growth or pulling you toward avoidance? Emotional awareness keeps your mind aligned with your priorities instead of your impulses. One of the most effective ways to train your mind is through focused reflection. At the end of each day, spend a few minutes reviewing what truly mattered during your day. Identify moments when you allowed distractions to take over, and moments when you stayed focused on what was important. Reflection is a mirror that shows you where your attention went, and it provides the opportunity to adjust your habits. This practice might feel uncomfortable at first, because it reveals how much of your attention has been scattered, but that discomfort is necessary for growth. Visualization is another powerful tool. Spend time imagining yourself fully present and focused on what matters. Picture yourself completing tasks that truly contribute to your goals. See yourself resisting distractions effortlessly. When you create mental images of focused action, your brain begins to recognize those scenarios as familiar and achievable. Over time, your mind naturally gravitates toward these meaningful actions without constant struggle. Training your mind also requires patience. Attention is like a muscle. It strengthens over time. You won't suddenly become laser-focused overnight. There will be days when distractions win, when impulses take control, and when your energy feels scattered. That is normal. The difference is that each day you practice, each day you notice and redirect, your mind becomes stronger and more disciplined. You develop the ability to see what is significant, even in the midst of chaos. It's essential to understand that noticing what truly matters is both an internal and external exercise. Internally, it's about understanding your values, your desires and your goals. Externally, it's about observing the world around you and filtering out noise. When you combine inner clarity with external awareness, you create a mental environment where your attention naturally flows toward what is meaningful. This alignment transforms how you live every day. Another strategy is to prioritize deliberately. Make a list of your top priorities and review it frequently. Your mind will naturally notice opportunities and actions that align with these priorities. This isn't about rigid schedules or endless to-do lists. It's about a conscious commitment to what matters. When your mind knows what is important, it becomes easier to say no to what isn't. Each no is a step toward more meaningful yeses. Clear clutter, limit distractions, and design routines that naturally guide you toward significance. When your surroundings are aligned with your goals, your mind spends less energy resisting distraction and more energy noticing what matters. Gratitude strengthens attention to what truly matters. When you focus on what you already have that is meaningful, relationships, health, knowledge, purpose, your mind begins to recognize the value in the present moment. Gratitude shifts your awareness from scarcity to significance. It trains the brain to prioritize lasting value over temporary noise. Learning to notice what matters also requires courage. It's tempting to follow the crowd, chase trends, or do what seems urgent because it feels easier. But meaningful focus often means going against what everyone else is doing. It may feel uncomfortable to ignore the noise and dedicate yourself to what truly matters, but this discomfort is the sign of growth. Courage is required because real change always demands that you resist what is easy in favor of what is essential. Mentorship and guidance can accelerate the process. Surround yourself with people who notice what matters in their own lives. Observe how they focus their attention, make decisions, and set boundaries. Your mind learns faster when you witness focus in action. Inspiration from others doesn't replace your own practice, but it provides a roadmap for how attention can be managed wisely. Training your mind is also about letting go of what doesn't serve you. Thoughts, habits, and routines that pull you away from your priorities must be released. This requires honesty. Identify patterns that steal your attention and take steps to remove them. When you let go of these distractions, your mind becomes lighter, sharper, and more capable of noticing significance. Rest and recovery are critical in training your mind. Fatigue makes attention fragile. When your body is tired, your brain defaults to distraction. Prioritize sleep, exercise, and moments of stillness. A well-rested mind is naturally better at noticing what matters. Think of it as giving your attention the energy it needs to perform at its best. Continuous learning is part of the process. The more knowledge and perspective you have, the easier it is to recognize what is significant. Exposure to ideas, experiences, and viewpoints sharpens judgment. The mind trained in learning becomes adept at distinguishing meaningful opportunities from empty noise. Learning isn't just about information, it's about training perception. Daily rituals reinforce mental training. Small, consistent actions, journaling, meditation, focused reading, or deliberate planning, teach the brain to prioritize intentionally. Rituals are not tasks to check off, they are repeated exercises that condition your mind to notice and act on what is important naturally. Patience, reflection, courage, and repetition are the pillars of training your mind. None of these are flashy or immediate, but they are effective. With steady practice, you'll notice your mind will start automatically identifying what matters, cutting through noise, and guiding you toward meaningful action. You'll feel more clarity, more calm, more energy, and more purpose. Notice also how relationships impact attention. Surround yourself with people who value what matters. Negative, chaotic, or shallow influences drain focus. Positive influences inspire attention toward growth, contribution, and significance. The mind is social. The people you engage with shape what you notice and how you respond. Choosing relationships wisely trains your attention almost as much as deliberate practice. Finally, recognize that training your mind is a lifelong journey. There is no finish line where your mind becomes perfectly disciplined. The world changes, new distractions appear, and priorities evolve. The goal is not perfection, but continuous improvement. The more you train, the more your mind becomes a reliable guide, able to notice what truly matters and direct your energy toward it consistently. Life is too short to let attention wander aimlessly. Every thought, every moment, and every decision is an opportunity to train your mind. When you focus on what truly matters, you live with purpose. You make choices that create lasting impact. You feel present, engaged, and alive. It starts by noticing where your attention goes, questioning its value, and intentionally redirecting it toward significance. With practice, your mind becomes stronger, sharper, and wiser. You start living each day with clarity, energy, and intention. You stop reacting to every demand and start responding to what matters most. You stop being pulled around by distractions and start being guided by purpose. Training your mind to notice what truly matters changes everything. It transforms your work, your relationships, your health, and your sense of self. It's not a single act, but a continuous practice. Each moment you choose focus over distraction, clarity over chaos, significance over noise, you reinforce the skill. Over time, these choices compound into a life that feels deeply meaningful and fully alive. Your mind is a tool. How it functions is determined by what you feed it, what you practice, and what you protect it from. Train it deliberately, and it will become your greatest ally. Neglect it, and it will scatter your energy, drain your peace, and leave you feeling unfulfilled. Every day provides another chance to strengthen your attention. Each decision to notice what matters builds clarity. Each refusal to chase the unnecessary reinforces discipline. Every moment of intentional focus brings you closer to the life you actually want to live. The journey of training your mind is continuous, demanding, and deeply rewarding. It is not flashy or popular, but it is real. It is the difference between living distracted and living purposeful. The difference between feeling scattered and feeling grounded. The difference between a life of noise and a life of meaning. When your mind is trained, you experience the world differently. You see opportunities that others miss.
You notice value that others ignore. You act with intention while others drift. Your energy flows to what matters most, and your life begins to reflect the focus you've cultivated. Nothing changes until you notice. Everything changes when you train your mind to notice what truly matters. This is a skill worth developing, a habit worth committing to, and a practice that will shape every moment of your life. The path is not easy, but it is transformative. When you choose attention, clarity, and purpose, you begin to live in a way that feels rich, full, and meaningful.
Chapter 3. Stop feeding thoughts that keep you stuck and small. The mind is a powerful engine, but it can either drive you forward or keep you trapped in the same place. Every thought you allow to settle in your head shapes the life you experience. Many people don't realize that they are feeding their minds thoughts that keep them small. They replay negative ideas, focus on fears, and nurture doubts, thinking it is normal. They tell themselves, "I can't do this," or "I'm not ready," or "I'm not enough," and over time, these thoughts become habits. These are not just fleeting ideas, they are patterns that define the way you see yourself, the choices you make, and the results you get. Stopping these thoughts is not just about thinking positively, it's about taking control of what you allow into your mental space. Most people think thoughts are automatic, uncontrollable. They feel like they are passengers in their own minds. But the truth is, you can train your attention and redirect your thinking. You can decide which ideas deserve space and which ones should be dismissed. This is one of the most important skills for personal growth and breaking free from stagnation. First, you must become aware of the thoughts that are keeping you stuck. You cannot stop something you cannot see. Observe your mind honestly. What are the messages you tell yourself when things get hard? What stories do you repeat about failure, limitation, or lack? Write them down if necessary. Seeing these thoughts in black and white helps you understand their influence on your life. Once you recognize the thoughts that hold you back, you have the opportunity to change them. It's also important to notice how these thoughts make you feel physically. Thoughts that keep you small often create tension, fatigue, or unease in the body. Anxiety tightens your chest, doubt slows your steps, and fear can make your stomach churn. These are signals from your body that your mind is feeding on ideas that are not serving you. When you recognize these physical reactions, you gain the ability to step in and disrupt the pattern. The next step is to challenge these thoughts actively. Don't accept them just because they appear automatically. Ask, is this true, and does this help me grow? Many thoughts that hold you back are exaggerated or outright false. They are the result of old habits, past experiences, or fear of discomfort. By questioning them, you weaken their power. By refusing to accept them as facts, you open space for new ways of thinking. Replace harmful thoughts with ideas that expand your mind, rather than shrink it. This is not about forcing optimism blindly, but about focusing on what is constructive and empowering. When fear tells you that you can't try, remind yourself that effort leads to growth. When doubt tells you that you're not capable, recall past moments where you succeeded, despite uncertainty. Feed your mind with examples, reminders, and affirmations that support expansion rather than restriction. Pay attention to the company you keep in thought as well. Most people feed themselves negativity by listening to the wrong voices, friends, family, media, and social environments that constantly reinforce limitation. Your mental diet matters. Choose carefully what ideas you consume. Surround yourself with messages and people that lift your perspective, challenge your comfort zones, and expand your vision. Your mind will reflect the energy it absorbs, so choose sources that encourage growth. Daily practice is critical. Thoughts that keep you small have been cultivated over years. They did not form overnight, and they will not disappear in a day. You need to practice mental discipline consistently. Spend time every morning setting your mind in a positive and expansive direction. Take moments during the day to notice when unhelpful thoughts arise and gently redirect them. The consistency of this practice rewires your brain and strengthens your capacity to choose growth-oriented thinking. Visualization and imagination are powerful tools in this process. Picture yourself acting without limitation, making decisions confidently, and overcoming obstacles with clarity. See yourself thinking clearly, responding to challenges with calm and strength. These mental exercises train your mind to recognize possibility and reduce the grip of limiting thought. Your imagination is a rehearsal space where the mind learns what it can achieve. Another important strategy is journaling. Writing down your thoughts forces you to externalize what is inside. When you see your doubts and fears on paper, they lose some of their hold over you. You can respond to them with logic, reason, and evidence from your life. Journaling is a tool to organize, clarify, and eventually release thoughts that keep you trapped. It allows you to evaluate which beliefs are worth holding onto and which need to be discarded. Awareness of triggers is another critical step. Certain situations, people, or events can ignite the thoughts that keep you small. Maybe it's social comparison, criticism, or a particular environment that fuels fear and doubt. Identify these triggers and take steps to manage them. You cannot always control the world, but you can control your response. When you notice a trigger, pause and redirect your attention to something constructive and empowering. Self-talk matters immensely. The language you use with yourself shapes your reality. Thoughts like "I can't" or "I'm not ready" create mental barriers before you even take action. Replace them with statements that acknowledge challenge but emphasize capability, such as "I am learning," "I can figure this out," or "I am capable of improvement." The words you repeat internally shape your actions externally, so choose them wisely. Discipline strengthens the ability to stop feeding unhelpful thoughts. The mind is naturally prone to habit, and without conscious effort, it will fall into old patterns. Create small daily practices that cultivate mental control, focused reading, mindful breathing, or strategic planning. Each time you direct your mind intentionally, you weaken the automatic cycles of self-limiting thinking. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to notice when your thoughts are shrinking you and to redirect them immediately. Embrace discomfort as a sign of growth. Limiting thoughts thrive on comfort. They convince you to stay safe, to avoid risk, to settle for less. When you feel fear, hesitation, or uncertainty, recognize it as a signal that your mind is resisting expansion. Push through with deliberate action. Act even when doubt whispers loudly. Each step beyond the comfort zone trains your mind to reject confinement and embrace possibility. Reflection is essential in this process. Take time regularly to review which thoughts consistently hold you back and which ones push you forward. Recognize patterns, evaluate progress, and celebrate shifts in perspective. Reflection strengthens your awareness, making it easier to intercept limiting thoughts before they take root. It is in this quiet self-review that your mental habits begin to transform. Physical movement supports mental control as well. Exercise, walking, and physical activity sharpen focus and improve mood, making it easier to manage thoughts. A tired, sedentary mind is more vulnerable to unhelpful thinking. Engaging the body supports the mind, creating a holistic environment where growth-oriented thoughts thrive. Gratitude can disarm small-minded thinking. When the mind focuses on abundance, on what is already positive and meaningful, it has less energy for fear, doubt, and limitation. Regularly acknowledging progress, even small wins, reinforces the idea that life is full of opportunities rather than obstacles.
Gratitude rewires perception, creating space for larger, more empowering thoughts. Set clear intentions each day. When you begin your morning with a mental plan to focus on growth, opportunity, and learning, you prime your mind to reject thoughts that shrink you. Intentions are like mental fences that protect your attention from self-defeating patterns. They don't prevent negative thoughts from appearing, but they make it easier to redirect them immediately. Learning from experience is part of the process. When you reflect on past challenges, recognize how limiting thoughts affected your action. Identify moments where small-minded thinking prevented you from trying, and consider what could have happened if your mind had been free. Use these lessons as fuel to reinforce new mental habits and to cultivate courage and resilience. Forgiveness is also part of freeing your mind. Often, limiting thoughts are tied to old failures, regrets, or resentments. Holding on to these thoughts keeps you in a cycle of stagnation. Acknowledge past mistakes, release blame, and focus on what you can do now. The mind cannot expand when it is weighed down by past grievances. Forgiveness clears space for empowering thinking. Mentorship and modeling, and invaluable. Observe people who operate with confidence, resilience, and clarity. Notice how they think, make decisions, and respond to setbacks. Learning from others allows your mind to see new possibilities and provides examples of what empowered thinking looks like. Your mind adapts by observing patterns that work in reality, not just theory. Distraction control supports mental freedom. Limiting thoughts often emerge when the mind is idle or overstimulated. Reduce unnecessary input, silence mental noise, and practice focused attention on tasks that matter. A mind occupied with meaningful action has less opportunity to feed self-limiting ideas. Structure your day so that focused work and purposeful reflection are the default. Celebrate small victories over limiting thoughts. Each time you redirect your mind, act despite fear, or challenge a negative belief, you reinforce strength and confidence. These small wins accumulate into a resilient mindset. Over time, your brain learns that it can function in a state of empowerment rather than restriction, and you feel capable, confident, and alive. Continuous curiosity fuels expansion. When your mind seeks learning, exploration, and growth, it naturally rejects thoughts that keep you small. Curiosity shifts focus outward toward possibility, instead of inward toward limitation. Engage with ideas, people, and experiences that stretch your perspective. Curiosity trains the mind to think expansively, rather than constrictively. Finally, recognize the lifelong nature of this work. Thoughts will continue to appear, challenges will continue to arise, and your mind will always test your discipline. But each moment you choose to stop feeding what keeps you small, you reclaim your power. Each decision to nurture expansive, empowering thoughts creates a life of progress, confidence, and fulfillment. When you stop feeding thoughts that keep you stuck and small, everything changes. You gain clarity, energy, and focus. You start to see possibilities that were invisible before. You begin to act with courage, resilience, and determination. Your mind becomes a tool for growth, rather than a prison of limitation. The life you create after freeing your mind is larger, richer, and more meaningful. Every thought you choose to nurture or reject shapes your reality, and mastering this practice is one of the most powerful ways to unlock your potential and live fully. Your mind is yours to train. Stop feeding what diminishes you. Feed what expands you. Do this consistently, deliberately, and with awareness, and you will see your life transform in ways you never imagined. The power to grow, to overcome, and to thrive begins in the thoughts you choose today.
Chapter 4. Understand your emotions before you let them guide you. Emotions are powerful. They arrive quickly, uninvited, and demand attention. Every human experiences them, but very few truly understand them. Most people react to feelings as if they are commands. When anger rises, They lash out. When fear appears, they freeze. When frustration hits, they complain or give up. These reactions may feel natural, but they often lead to mistakes, regrets, and unnecessary stress. Living this way makes life feel chaotic because emotions are allowed to control behavior rather than guide thoughtful action. Understanding emotions before allowing them to dictate decisions is one of the most important skills for building a strong, balanced, and successful life. The first step is recognition. Too often, people ignore what they feel or bury emotions under busyness, work, or distraction. Ignoring emotions does not make them disappear. It only allows them to build power silently in the background. When you don't understand how you feel, those feelings eventually explode in ways that are damaging to yourself and others. The key is to recognize what is present inside you in each moment. Take a pause and notice the feelings that surface throughout the day. Identify them clearly. Name them: anger, sadness, anxiety, excitement, pride, whatever it is. Acknowledge it. Labeling your emotions gives you the first measure of control. Next comes observation. Once you recognize an emotion, watch it without judgment. Notice where it shows up in your body. Anger may tighten your chest or jaw. Anxiety may make your stomach churn or your mind race. Excitement may energize your limbs. Each emotion carries physical signals that tell you something about what is happening inside. Observing these sensations allows you to see emotions as data rather than commands. You begin to understand that feelings are indicators, not rules to follow blindly. Awareness also means understanding the triggers behind emotions. What situations, people, or events cause a specific feeling to arise? Do certain comments make you defensive? Do particular environments make you anxious? Identifying triggers helps you anticipate reactions and prepares you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. When you know what sparks a particular emotion, you can approach these moments with greater control and clarity. Reflection is another essential step. Ask yourself why you feel what you feel. Often emotions are linked to deeper beliefs, desires, or fears. Anger may come from a sense of injustice. Fear may emerge from insecurity. Frustration may arise from unmet expectations. By exploring the roots of your feelings, you uncover patterns in your thinking and behavior. These patterns, once understood, provide the opportunity for growth. You begin to see that emotions are not random, but meaningful responses that can guide you if handled wisely. Emotional intelligence is learned, not innate. Most people are not taught how to understand their emotions, which is why they struggle with impulsive behavior, stress, and conflict. Developing this skill requires practice. Start with small moments. When irritation surfaces, pause. Observe it. Ask what triggered it and why it matters. When fear arises, notice how it affects your choices. By approaching feelings this way consistently, you train your mind to respond rather than react. Mindfulness is a valuable tool in this process. Paying attention to your present experience without judgment allows you to notice emotions before they control you. Mindfulness is not about suppressing feelings or pretending they don't exist. It is about creating a space between the emotion and your response. In that space, you gain the power to choose actions that align with your values rather than your impulses. Breathing is another simple yet effective practice. Emotions often escalate quickly, and when they do, the mind reacts in ways that are not helpful. Deep, slow breaths calm the nervous system and create room for reflection. A steady breath reminds you that you are not at the mercy of your feelings. You can acknowledge them, process them, and decide how to act. Breathing is a bridge between chaos and clarity. Writing or journaling about emotions is also beneficial. Putting your feelings into words externalizes them and allows you to examine them from a distance. When you write, you clarify the intensity and origin of your feelings. You can see patterns over time. You can challenge distorted perceptions. Writing turns emotional experiences into learning experiences, giving you insight and control. Emotional regulation also requires setting boundaries. Emotions are amplified by exposure to negativity, conflict, or constant stress. Protecting yourself from harmful environments, limiting engagement with toxic individuals, and managing your exposure to overwhelming input strengthens your ability to process emotions healthily. Boundaries do not eliminate feelings, they provide space to manage them constructively. Empathy and understanding others' emotions are connected to understanding your own. When you recognize feelings in yourself, you become more capable of seeing them in others. This awareness improves relationships, reduces conflict, and fosters connection. You cannot navigate life successfully if your reactions to emotions hurt the people around you. By understanding feelings in yourself first, you gain clarity in how you interact with the world. Decision-making is deeply influenced by emotional awareness. Many people make choices based on temporary feelings rather than long-term reasoning. Impulse decisions often lead to regret because they are driven by emotions unchecked by awareness. By understanding the emotion before acting, you give yourself a chance to make decisions rooted in logic, values, and strategic thinking. You learn to use emotions as information rather than as an automatic guide. Self-compassion is critical in this work. Emotions are part of being human, and you will make mistakes in managing them. You will overreact, misjudge, and feel overwhelmed. Respond with kindness toward yourself. Recognize that understanding emotions is a skill you develop over time. Criticism or self-judgment only adds stress and clouds judgment. Gentle awareness builds resilience and strengthens the ability to handle future emotional challenges. Anticipation and preparation are powerful. You can mentally rehearse how to handle emotional situations. Think ahead about challenges or conversations that may trigger strong feelings. Plan your responses in advance. Visualization of calm, measured reactions strengthens the mind's ability to respond thoughtfully when the real moment occurs. Preparation reduces the power of surprise and increases control. Gratitude also plays a role in emotional management. When you focus on what is positive and meaningful, emotions like resentment, jealousy, or fear lose power. Gratitude shifts perspective, softens intensity, and creates space for more constructive feelings. Regularly reflecting on what you value strengthens emotional balance. Stress management is essential. High stress amplifies emotional reactions and reduces clarity. Techniques like exercise, meditation, and rest improve your resilience. A calm, well-rested mind is more capable of observing emotions without being overwhelmed. Strengthening your overall well-being directly improves emotional control. Learning from past emotional experiences accelerates growth. Reflect on situations where emotions guided you poorly. Analyze what triggered the reaction, what the consequences were, and how a different approach could have changed the outcome. Experience is a teacher, but only if you extract lessons consciously. Every mistake in handling emotion is an opportunity to strengthen your awareness and response. Positive reinforcement helps solidify emotional control. Notice when you respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Celebrate moments where you pause, observe, and act deliberately. This acknowledgement trains your mind to repeat productive, emotional behavior. Recognition of success strengthens habits, even in subtle ways, over time. Forgiveness is also part of understanding emotions. Holding on to resentment or anger magnifies emotional intensity and clouds judgment. By forgiving yourself and others, you release the hold of these emotions, creating clarity and space for constructive feelings. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is an act of strength that enables thoughtful action. Connection to values and purpose strengthens emotional control. When decisions and actions are guided by what is meaningful rather than by temporary emotional states, emotions serve as signals rather than masters. Ask yourself what aligns with your principles when strong feelings arise. This orientation ensures that your actions are deliberate, impactful, and aligned with long-term goals.
Focus on one emotion at a time. Trying to analyze every feeling simultaneously overwhelms the mind. Notice what is most present, explore its source and decide how to respond. Sequential awareness creates order and prevents chaos. It is better to fully process one emotion than partially process many. Accountability improves emotional awareness. Share your journey with someone you trust, someone who can offer perspective when emotions cloud judgment. An outside view helps you see blind spots and provides feedback to strengthen emotional control. Accountability transforms abstract awareness into practical improvement. Practice gratitude in response to challenging emotion. Even when anger, fear, or disappointment arise, identifying one small thing to appreciate in that moment shifts perspective and reduces reactivity. Gratitude is not denial. It is a tool that provides clarity amidst emotional intensity. Understand that emotions are temporary. They arise, peak, and fade. Recognizing the impermanence of feelings reduces the urgency to act impulsively. When you remind yourself that emotions are fleeting, you gain perspective and the ability to respond rather than react. Patience in this process strengthens stability. Boundaries with yourself are also necessary. Avoid indulging in negative self-talk or mental loops that amplify emotional intensity. Challenge destructive narratives immediately. Replace them with observations that guide thoughtful action, rather than feeding anxiety, frustration, or fear. Boundaries are not walls. They are structures that protect clarity. Engage in intentional activities that regulate emotions. Physical exercise, creative expression, or focused work channels energy that might otherwise create agitation or overwhelm. Productive action transforms the energy of emotion into outcomes that matter. Moving the body, creating something, or contributing meaningfully directs emotional energy constructively. Develop resilience through incremental exposure. Start with small emotional challenges and practice managing reactions calmly. Over time, you strengthen capacity to handle bigger challenges with composure. Resilience is built, not born, and controlled exposure allows mastery of emotional response. Celebrate moments of awareness. Each time you notice an emotion before reacting, each time you choose understanding over impulse, you reinforce the skill. Awareness compounds. Over months and years, this deliberate attention rewires how you experience life. Emotions begin to inform, rather than control. Understanding emotions before acting allows for richer relationships. When you respond thoughtfully, you avoid unnecessary conflict and communicate more effectively. Empathy grows because you have the capacity to observe and interpret feelings accurately. Life becomes less reactive and more intentional. Finally, understand that emotional mastery is a lifelong journey. Emotions will continue to arise, challenges will test your patience, and you will occasionally fall into old patterns. The difference is that each time you practice awareness, observation, and thoughtful response, your mind strengthens. Over time, you move from being led by feelings to being guided by insight and values. Emotions are part of what makes life vibrant and human. They are not enemies to suppress, but guides to understand. When you learn to observe them, analyze them, and respond intentionally, you transform how you live. You act with purpose, rather than reaction. You build resilience, rather than regret. You make decisions that create meaningful outcomes, rather than fleeting satisfaction. Understanding emotions, before allowing them to guide action, creates a life of clarity, calm, and strength. It is one of the most powerful tools for personal growth and lasting fulfillment. When you master this, you control your life, rather than letting your feelings control you, and you move forward with confidence, wisdom, and presence.
Chapter 5. Pay attention to patterns that quietly shape your life. Life is made up of countless moments, decisions, and actions that most people don't even notice. The reality is that the small things you do every day accumulate over time and shape who you are, the opportunities you attract, and the life you lead. Most people focus on big events or dramatic changes, thinking that those are the things that determine their path. The truth is, it's the patterns, the habits, routines, and repeated choices that quietly and consistently shape your future. Paying attention to these patterns is not optional if you want control over your life. It is essential. Patterns begin with behavior. Every time you react in a certain way, choose a specific habit or make a decision, you create a pathway in your life. Over time, these paths become grooves, making certain behaviors automatic. People often underestimate how much power these repeated actions have. A small daily choice may feel insignificant in the moment, but repeated consistently, it determines your health, your wealth, your relationships, and your mindset. The first step in understanding patterns is observation. You must start noticing what you do automatically. How do you start your mornings? How do you respond to stress? What are your default habits when you are tired or anxious? Most people move through life on autopilot. They are unaware that these repeated actions are building the structure of their future. Observing without judgment is critical because it allows clarity. Once you see your patterns, you can decide which ones serve you and which ones hold you back. Many patterns are invisible because they are comfortable. Comfort is the reason people cling to routines that don't serve them. Eating habits, work routines, social interactions, and even the thoughts you repeat have enormous power, but because they are familiar, they often go unquestioned. That is why it is crucial to pay attention. Look at the repetition in your life carefully. Ask yourself if these repeated actions align with the person you want to become and the life you want to live. Patterns are not only visible in your actions, but also in your thinking. The way you interpret events, the stories you tell yourself, and the assumptions you make form a pattern of thought. If you constantly focus on failure, limitation, or negativity, you train your mind to expect and attract those outcomes. On the other hand, if you develop patterns of resilience, curiosity, and proactive problem solving, your mind begins to generate possibilities rather than obstacles. Thought patterns quietly set the stage for everything you do and how you experience life. Understanding your patterns requires honesty. Many people are unwilling to admit the habits that hold them back because they feel comfortable hiding behind excuses. Maybe you spend hours scrolling on your phone, avoid uncomfortable conversations, or procrastinate on important tasks. Each of these behaviors might seem small, but repeated consistently, they shape a life of stagnation. Recognizing these patterns is uncomfortable at first, but it is the first step toward transformation. Tracking behavior can be a powerful tool. Keeping a simple journal or log of daily habits, actions, and reactions allows you to see what repeats most often. Over time, trends become clear. Perhaps you notice that you react angrily under stress, avoid challenges, or spend too much energy on things that don't matter. Patterns are easier to change when you have evidence of them. Observation without recording can be fleeting, but documenting allows insight, accountability, and action. Patterns are also evident in relationships. The type of people you spend time with, the ways you interact, and the influence they have on you create repeated dynamics. If you surround yourself with negativity, distraction, or drama, your life gradually reflects that energy. Conversely, associating with supportive, ambitious, and thoughtful individuals produces consistent growth. Relationships reinforce patterns because they influence your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, often without conscious awareness. It is critical to notice emotional patterns as well. How do you respond to setbacks, disappointment, or success? Do you blame, react impulsively, or withdraw? Or do you reflect, adjust, and keep moving forward? Emotional responses repeated over time define your resilience, self-confidence, and capacity to navigate challenges. Observing these patterns helps you identify where emotional habits are strengthening you or limiting you. Patterns also show up in productivity and focus. How do you spend your working hours? What tasks do you prioritize automatically? Where does your attention drift without noticing? Most people believe that the results they get are random or determined by luck, but consistent patterns of attention and effort are what create outcomes. Success is rarely about a single action. It is about repeated, intentional focus on what matters most. Financial behaviors are another area where patterns quietly shape life. Small spending decisions, saving habits, and choices about investment accumulate over months and years. People often focus on big purchases or windfalls, believing they determine financial stability, but it is the daily patterns of discipline and decision-making that determine wealth. Observing, adjusting, and reinforcing productive financial habits creates long-term security. Breaking negative patterns requires deliberate intervention. Once you notice a habit that does not serve you, it must be replaced with a positive alternative. Simply stopping a behavior is often not enough, because the mind will default to old routine. Substitute constructive habits that align with your goals. If you spend too much time on distractions, schedule focused blocks of work. If you procrastinate, create small, achievable steps to start. Change occurs gradually through consistent, repeated adjustment. Consistency is more important than intensity when it comes to patterns. Small daily actions compounded over time are far more powerful than occasional bursts of effort. People often underestimate the power of repetition because it feels insignificant in the moment. Yet patterns are cumulative. Every repeated choice either strengthens a positive direction or reinforces limitation. Paying attention to these subtle repeated actions allows you to direct life intentionally. Environmental factors heavily influence pattern. Your surroundings, routines, and context either support growth or reinforce stagnation. A cluttered space, constant distractions, and chaotic schedules foster patterns of inattention and stress. Organized, intentional environments promote focus, efficiency, and calm. Examine your environment carefully and adjust it to encourage behaviors and patterns that serve your goals. Self-reflection enhances awareness of patterns. Taking time to evaluate successes and failures reveals underlying habits that produce those outcomes. Instead of attributing results solely to luck or talent, recognize the consistent behaviors and actions that shaped the situation. Reflection creates insight, guiding conscious adjustment of daily routines to reinforce positive patterns and diminish unhelpful ones. Patterns are also revealed in language. How you speak to yourself and others consistently creates a mental and social landscape. Self-critical, defeatist language reinforces patterns of limitation. Encouraging, solution-focused, and proactive language nurtures patterns of growth and resilience. Words matter because they repeat daily and condition thought, emotion, and action over time. Intentional practice amplifies pattern formation. Deliberate repetition of productive behaviors trains the mind and body to operate automatically in alignment with your goal. This could include daily exercise, focused study, meditation, planning sessions, or acts of kindness. Over time, these repeated practices become natural, quietly shaping your life for the better. Breaking harmful patterns also involves patience and persistence. Old habits and routines often have deep roots. Immediate change is rare. Progress comes from persistent observation, correction, and reinforcement of desired behaviors. Each time you catch yourself in an unhelpful pattern and redirect, you strengthen your ability to act differently in the future. This creates momentum for lasting change. Mindfulness enhances pattern recognition.
Paying attention to the present moment allows you to notice habitual reactions, unconscious decisions, and recurring emotional responses. Mindfulness brings subtle patterns into awareness before they dictate your life. When you consistently practice presence, patterns that previously operated automatically become visible and adjustable. Learning from others accelerates pattern awareness. Observe how people around you respond to challenges, manage time, and handle emotions. Some patterns produce success and peace, while others create repeated struggle. By seeing patterns in action externally, you gain insight into your own behaviors and can adopt strategies that reinforce growth. Patterns also influence your perception of opportunity. People who have cultivated positive patterns notice possibilities that others overlook. Their mindset, routines, and habits allow them to respond quickly and effectively to opportunity. Conversely, limiting patterns narrow perception, making life feel smaller and success harder to achieve. When you verbalize your goals and receive feedback, your awareness of patterns strengthens. You are more likely to notice when old habits resurface and adjust proactively. Accountability transforms insight into action. Patterns are reinforced by repetition, environment, attention, and feedback. Each day provides countless opportunities to build positive patterns and weaken negative ones. Paying attention to the seemingly small, routine elements of life reveals the mechanisms behind long-term outcomes. Awareness of these patterns is what allows intentional transformation rather than accidental drift. Celebration of small victories over patterns is crucial. Each day you notice a habit, redirect behavior, or reinforce a positive routine, you strengthen your ability to live intentionally. These small, consistent wins accumulate into long-term growth and success. Recognizing them motivates continued vigilance and effort. Patterns also reveal priorities. What you do repeatedly shows what matters most to you, regardless of stated intention. Observing your actions, rather than just your words, highlights alignment or misalignment with your goals. When you notice incongruence, it is an opportunity to adjust focus, redirect energy, and cultivate habits that support meaningful outcomes. Physical health and energy influence pattern formation. The body and mind are deeply connected. Poor sleep, nutrition, and exercise habits create patterns of fatigue, distraction, and reduced self-control. Strengthening the body enhances the mind's capacity to maintain productive patterns. Health and behavior patterns work together to shape life quietly and consistently. Mental patterns can be expanded through learning. Regular exposure to new ideas, skills, and experiences prevents rigidity and promotes flexibility. By seeking growth intentionally, your thought patterns become adaptive, creative, and solution-oriented. Stagnation in thinking is often the result of repeated mental habits that limit perspective and options. Patterns form the foundation of long-term results. Success is rarely the result of a single moment of brilliance. It is the accumulation of small, repeated actions aligned with purpose. Paying attention to these patterns is essential because ignoring them allows life to drift randomly. Observing and adjusting them allows you to steer intentionally. The more you notice, the more control you gain. Each habitual action, repeated thought, and automatic response becomes visible, offering an opportunity for refinement. Awareness transforms unconscious patterns into conscious choices. Over time, life shifts from randomness to design, from reaction to intention, and from small unnoticed behaviors to extraordinary outcomes. Patterns are subtle, but they are relentless. They shape health, wealth, relationships, mindset, and destiny. Ignoring them is a slow drift toward mediocrity. Paying attention to them is a deliberate strategy to take control of life. Each repeated choice either strengthens or weakens your foundation. Every day provides an opportunity to align with the patterns that lead to growth, purpose, and fulfillment. Mastering awareness of patterns is a lifelong pursuit. Life will continue to challenge, tempt, and distract. Patterns may re-emerge or change over time, but with consistent observation, reflection, adjustment, and reinforcement, you gain the ability to direct your actions, shape your environment, and choose outcomes. Paying attention to patterns transforms small, repeated decisions into a life of intentional success, fulfillment, and growth.
Chapter 6. Break the need for validation and find real confidence. Confidence is one of the most misunderstood qualities in life. Many people think confidence comes from recognition, praise, or approval from others. They spend years seeking validation, waiting for someone to say, "You did a good job," or "You're capable," believing that this external acknowledgement is what will make them feel secure and strong. The truth is that real confidence does not come from outside approval. It comes from a deep understanding of yourself, your abilities, your values, and your purpose. Until you break the need for validation, you will always be at the mercy of other people's opinions and reactions. The first step in breaking the need for validation is awareness. Most people don't realize how often they seek approval. Notice how your mood shifts when someone criticizes you or when praise is absent. Observe how you alter your behavior to gain acceptance, approval, or admiration. These moments reveal the subtle ways validation controls your life. Awareness is the foundation of change, because you cannot change what you do not recognize. Understanding why you crave validation is also essential. Many times, this need stems from past experiences, upbringing, or societal pressure. Perhaps you were praised only for results, not effort as a child. Perhaps you were criticized for mistakes instead of being encouraged to learn from them. These experiences teach the mind to link self-worth with external approval. Recognizing the origin of these patterns helps you realize that approval is optional, not essential. The next step is separating self-worth from performance. Your value is not determined by what you do, how others perceive you, or the accolades you receive. True confidence is knowing that your worth exists, regardless of outcomes. This doesn't mean ignoring growth or improvement. It means refusing to base your internal sense of value on fleeting external opinion. When you internalize this, criticism loses its power and praise becomes pleasant, not necessary. Action builds confidence in a way validation cannot. Real confidence comes from competence, consistency, and self-reliance. When you develop skills, meet challenges, and follow through on commitments, you create evidence within yourself that you are capable. Each small success reinforces trust in your own ability. Unlike external validation, this type of confidence is stable because it is built on tangible action, not perception. You also need to challenge the fear of judgment. Most people hesitate, hold back, or conform to expectations because they fear what others will think. This fear is a chain that keeps you small. Facing it directly is necessary. Start by doing small acts that feel slightly uncomfortable. Speak your opinion honestly. Try something new without asking permission. Take incremental steps toward independence from approval. Each successful act strengthens your internal sense of confidence. Developing self-awareness strengthens the foundation for real confidence. Understand your strengths, weaknesses, values, and goals. The clearer you are about who you are and what you stand for, the less likely you are to be swayed by external opinions. When you know your capabilities and limits, feedback becomes data to consider, not a verdict on your worth. Self-awareness transforms judgment into insight rather than a weapon against your self-esteem. Boundaries are critical. People often allow others' opinions to dominate their actions because they haven't set limits on mental and emotional influence. Decide what input is useful and what is unnecessary. Protect your energy by filtering out constant criticism or unhelpful advice. Real confidence grows in the space you create when your mind is free from external pressure. Boundaries allow you to prioritize your own judgment and perspective. Affirmation and self-talk are practical tools in building confidence independent of validation. Replace phrases like "I hope they approve" with "I trust myself" or "I am capable." The brain responds to repeated statements, internalizing them over time. Positive self-talk is not about lying to yourself. It is about reinforcing the truth of your ability and worth. Language shapes thought, and thought shapes action, creating a feedback loop that strengthens confidence from the inside. Failure is also a key teacher. People who rely on validation often fear mistakes because mistakes can lead to criticism. Real confidence embraces failure as a learning tool rather than a judgment. Each time you fail and continue forward, you prove to yourself that external approval is unnecessary. You learn resilience, adaptability, and self-trust. Confidence born from experience is unshakable because it is rooted in reality, not opinion. Comparison is another trap to avoid. Constantly measuring yourself against others is a form of seeking validation indirectly. It reinforces the idea that your worth is determined by how you stack up. Stop comparing and focus on your own journey. Track your progress against your past self, not others. Growth measured internally builds confidence that is stable and authentic. Gratitude strengthens self-reliance. Recognize what you already have, the skills you've developed, and the moments you've succeeded on your own. Focusing on internal accomplishments and personal resources reinforces the idea that external validation is optional. Gratitude shifts attention from what you lack or seek from others to what is already present and strong within you. Surrounding yourself with supportive, not controlling people helps. Positive relationships reinforce growth and competence rather than approval seeking. Engage with those who provide honest feedback, challenge you constructively, and celebrate progress without fostering dependency. The right social environment encourages internal confidence rather than reliance on applause or recognition. Routine and preparation are also critical. Confidence comes from being ready. When you prepare thoroughly for tasks, practice your skills and anticipate challenges, you create self-assurance from action. Dependence on validation decreases because your evidence of capability is internal and immediate. Preparation builds a track record of reliability that strengthens trust in your own judgment. Facing discomfort deliberately develops independence from approval. Many people avoid situations where they might be judged, criticized, or evaluated. Growth comes from encountering discomfort and observing that you can handle it. Public speaking, trying new experiences, or asserting boundaries are all opportunities to reinforce internal confidence. Each time you act without needing approval, the habit strengthens and fear diminishes. Decision-making is a measure of internal confidence. When you rely on validation, decisions become slow, tentative, or paralyzed. Real confidence allows you to make choices quickly, trusting your reasoning and intuition. You consider advice but weigh it against your values and goals. Independence in decision-making strengthens your ability to act without needing reassurance. Consistency is essential. Confidence is not a single moment, it is reinforced through repeated action. Each day you act with integrity, competence, and self-trust. You add a layer to your internal foundation. Small, consistent choices accumulate into a life that feels solid, capable, and self-reliant. Validation becomes optional because your sense of capability is stable and proven. Resilience develops when confidence is internal. External validation can disappear at any time. Praise is fleeting, and criticism is inevitable. When your sense of self depends on internal assessment, you remain steady, regardless of circumstance. Life becomes less stressful, and decisions become clearer. The more you rely on your own judgment and proof of competence, the stronger and calmer you become in all situations.
Imagine yourself handling challenging situations successfully, expressing your opinion clearly, or completing important tasks with competence. Mental practice trains the brain to respond with assurance, reducing the need to seek reassurance from others. The mind becomes accustomed to success internally, making validation unnecessary. Self-compassion is vital. People who rely on validation are often harsh critics of themselves. Mistakes, setbacks, or uncertainty can lead to harsh self-judgment. Reinforcing dependence on external approval. Treat yourself with kindness, understanding that imperfection is human. Confidence grows when you recognize that you are capable even when you falter. Compassion creates space for growth and self-trust. Awareness of triggers helps maintain independence from validation. Notice when your desire for approval spikes during presentations, social interactions, or new projects. Understand what situations amplify dependency on others' opinions and create strategies to maintain internal grounding. Preparation, reflection, and self-talk can help navigate these moments with steadiness. Accountability without dependence is powerful. Seek mentors or peers who provide feedback but encourage self-trust. Accountability should reinforce skill, effort, and integrity, not cultivate reliance on praise. External input becomes data for growth rather than a source of self-worth. This approach nurtures confidence without feeding the need for constant validation. Embrace curiosity rather than fear. Confidence does not mean you know everything. It means you trust your capacity to learn, adapt, and grow. When uncertainty arises, approach it as an opportunity for growth rather than a test of worth. Curiosity reduces fear of judgment and reinforces internal assurance. Focus on purpose rather than approval. When your actions align with meaningful goals, the opinions of others lose significance. Purpose drives consistent action and gives context to decisions. People with purpose act decisively and confidently because their focus is on impact, not applause. Aligning daily action with values is a direct path to internalized confidence. Celebrate internal victories. Recognize moments when you trusted yourself, made independent choices, or handled challenges without seeking reassurance. Each small act builds momentum. Internal validation strengthens with practice. Confidence grows exponentially when reinforced by repeated acknowledgement of your own abilities. Physical presence affects confidence. Posture, tone, and movement influence how you feel internally. Acting with calm, intentional presence sends signals to the mind that reinforce competence and self-assurance. Embodied confidence reduces the instinct to seek external approval. Body and mind reinforce each other. Learning to say no strengthens internal confidence. Refusing requests, opinions, or pressures that conflict with your values reinforces self-trust. Each act of refusal is an exercise in autonomy. When you prioritize your judgment over external expectation, you train yourself to rely on internal validation rather than approval from others. Over time, breaking the need for validation transforms life. Decisions become clearer, stress decreases, and focus shifts to meaningful action. You stop measuring yourself against others and start measuring against your own standards. Each step taken independently reinforces competence, clarity, and resilience. Confidence rooted in internal validation is unshakable. It is steady regardless of praise or criticism. It grows from preparation, reflection, skill development, resilience, and alignment with value. When you stop feeding the need for approval, you unlock freedom to act boldly, live authentically, and pursue your goals without hesitation. Real confidence is quiet, consistent, and self-sustaining. It does not require applause, likes, or agreement. It is built daily through action, reflection, and self-trust. Each decision, each challenge faced independently, and each habit cultivated reinforces this internal strength. The life of a confident person is guided by competence, integrity, and purpose, not the opinions of others. Breaking the need for validation is a journey, not a one-time event. It requires practice, awareness, and courage. Yet, each day you act from your own assessment of capability rather than seeking approval. You grow stronger. Confidence becomes natural, unwavering, and deeply empowering.
Chapter 7. Shift your focus from control to genuine inner peace. Most people spend their lives trying to control things that are outside their reach. They try to manage every situation, influence every outcome, and dictate how others behave. This constant need to control creates tension, anxiety, and disappointment. The truth is that life is unpredictable, and attempting to force outcomes drains energy, clouds judgment, and robs peace. Real strength comes not from controlling everything around you, but from mastering your inner world. Shifting focus from control to genuine inner peace changes the way you experience life, decisions, and relationships. The first step is awareness of control habits. Notice where you are exerting unnecessary effort to manage situations, people, or outcomes. Perhaps you micromanage at work, overplan personal schedules, or feel frustrated when others act differently than expected. These are signs that control has become a default pattern rather than a conscious choice. Awareness allows you to step back and evaluate where effort is effective and where it is wasted. Understanding the limits of control is critical. You cannot change the past, dictate other people's feelings, or force circumstances to align perfectly with your desires. Many people resist this truth, which leads to stress and repeated disappointment. Accepting what you cannot control frees mental and emotional energy to focus on what you can influence: your responses, attitudes, and actions. Inner peace begins with self-mastery. The more you understand your emotions, thoughts, and reactions, the less vulnerable you are to external chaos. Peace is not the absence of challenges, but the presence of control over how you engage with them. By shifting focus inward, you discover stability that does not depend on external conditions. When storms arise, your mind remains steady, and decisions are clearer. Letting go of outcomes is essential. People tie their happiness to specific results: promotion, recognition, approval, or material gain. This attachment creates tension because results are often unpredictable. Instead, focus on effort, integrity, and preparation. Do your best in every action, but release the need for it to turn out exactly as imagined. Detachment from outcomes does not mean passivity. It means acting with purpose while remaining emotionally free from uncertainty. Practice presence in every moment. Control-oriented thinking often stems from obsession with the future or regret over the past. Mindfulness, the ability to notice the present moment without judgment, grounds attention and reduces anxiety. When you focus on what is happening now, energy is directed efficiently. You respond to challenges effectively, rather than reacting out of fear or habit. Presence is the cornerstone of inner peace. Shift perspective from reaction to response. Many people mistake emotional reaction for appropriate action. They respond defensively, impatiently, or with frustration when events do not align with their desires. Instead, pause before acting, observe the situation, assess what is within your control, and respond thoughtfully. This pause transforms impulsive attempts to control into intentional actions rooted in clarity and calm. Breathing and physiological awareness support inner peace. When tension rises, stress hormones trigger the need to act, often impulsively. Conscious, slow breathing signals safety to the body and mind. This creates space to choose response over reaction. Awareness of body sensations informs the mind, allowing decisions to emerge from clarity rather than compulsion. Detach from the opinions of others. Much of the desire to control stems from concern about judgment, approval, or criticism. The need to manipulate outcomes often reflects fear of how others will perceive you. Recognize that other people's reactions are outside your control. Focus instead on integrity, alignment with values, and personal standards. Freedom from external expectation cultivates inner calm. Boundaries reinforce peace. By defining what you accept and refuse in your life, you reduce the chaos caused by over-involvement in situations beyond your influence. Boundaries protect energy, focus, and mental stability. They allow you to participate in life intentionally, rather than reacting to every demand or disruption. Setting limits is an act of self-respect and a tool for cultivating inner serenity. Focus on what is actionable. Control-oriented thinking often spreads attention thin across many uncontrollable variables. Instead, direct energy toward actions that have direct impact, your choices, your effort, and your preparation. Every action within your influence strengthens confidence, reduces anxiety, and contributes meaningfully to outcomes. Action coupled with acceptance forms the foundation of calm effectiveness. Gratitude strengthens detachment. Shifting attention to what you have rather than what you cannot influence reduces stress and cultivates contentment. Recognize progress, relationships, and resources already present in your life. Gratitude shifts perspective from scarcity and fear of loss to abundance and appreciation, fostering a stable mental and emotional environment. Reflection enhances understanding of control patterns. Daily evaluation of where energy was spent trying to manipulate outcomes versus where it was focused effectively reveals areas for adjustment. Reflection fosters learning and prevents repetition of counterproductive habits. Awareness of how effort aligns with influence builds mastery over mind and life. Simplicity supports peace. Overcomplication creates the illusion that you can manage everything, increasing anxiety and exhaustion. Streamline priorities, commitments, and responsibility. Focus on essential tasks that have tangible impact. Reducing complexity allows the mind to operate with clarity rather than constant strain, fostering consistent serenity. Acceptance of imperfection is crucial. Life rarely unfolds perfectly. Mistakes, setbacks, and delays are inevitable. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It means acknowledging reality as it is while choosing constructive response. When you accept imperfection, the urge to control diminishes and energy is redirected toward meaningful action and self-mastery. Detach from the need to predict outcome. Planning is necessary, but obsessive prediction creates stress and illusion of control. Life is fluid, and uncertainty is inherent. Learn to anticipate challenges while remaining flexible. Adaptation, rather than control, ensures resilience. Inner peace grows when the mind embraces possibility without clinging to rigid expectations. Forgiveness reduces internal friction. Holding on to resentment or judgment is a form of control over others' behavior and the past. Release these attachments to restore personal peace. Forgiveness does not condone wrongdoing, but frees your mind from unnecessary burden. Letting go of what cannot be changed creates mental space for calm and constructive energy. Develop trust in your capacity to handle uncertainty. Confidence in your own resourcefulness reduces the desire to micromanage events or people. Trust that you can respond appropriately to challenges as they arise. This mindset shifts energy from controlling to observing, preparing, and acting intentionally, producing a profound sense of calm and self-reliance. Consistent daily routines cultivate stability. Control is often sought to offset feelings of unpredictability. Establish habits that reinforce balance, productivity, and well-being. Routines provide a sense of reliability and order, without attempting to manipulate external circumstances. Structure within your influence creates peace despite the inherent uncertainty of life. Let go of perfectionism. The need to control is often linked to the desire for flawless results. Realize that progress, learning, and effort matter more than perfect execution. Embracing imperfection frees energy for productive action and reduces stress associated with managing every variable. Focus shifts from controlling outcomes to engaging fully with what you can do. Visualization of calm responses strengthens inner control. Mentally rehearse facing challenges without reacting impulsively,
or attempting to manipulate circumstances. Imagine responding with patience, clarity, and equanimity. This mental practice trains the brain to operate from a place of calm rather than anxiety-driven control, reinforcing inner stability. Engage in regular reflection on value. Decisions guided by principles rather than reaction. Reduce the impulse to control. When you anchor actions in meaningful priorities, the need to micromanage situations diminishes. Values provide a compass for response, allowing energy to flow toward what matters most, instead of wasted effort on unnecessary control. Physical activity supports mental equilibrium. Movement, exercise, or mindful practice regulates energy, reduces stress, and creates a grounded state that diminishes compulsive control impulses. The body and mind are connected. Calming one reinforces the other. Physical discipline fosters mental resilience and enhances inner serenity. Focus on contribution rather than outcome. Shift energy from controlling results to serving, creating, or improving in ways you can influence. Contribution fosters satisfaction, effectiveness, and connection, whereas obsession with control produces tension and frustration. Energy directed toward action within influence produces fulfillment and peace. Boundaries with information intake matter. Constant exposure to news, social media, or opinion-driven environments amplifies the illusion of control. Filter input, prioritize sources that inform without overwhelming, and disengage from content that triggers anxiety or compulsion. To manage outcomes, mental space is preserved for clarity and intentional action. Practice deep listening and observation in relationship. Allow others to act, speak, and make choices without interference. Observe rather than direct. This reduces relational tension and strengthens your capacity to respond thoughtfully, rather than controlling through influence or persuasion. Relationships flourish when freedom is respected. Patience is critical. Many attempts to control are motivated by the desire for immediate results. Cultivate tolerance for process and timing. Understand that life unfolds gradually, and persistent effort aligned with what is within your control yields more reliable results than frantic management of every variable. Patience nurtures inner calm and strategic thinking. Meditation and reflection practices reinforce detachment from control. Daily moments of quiet focus allow observation of thoughts, emotions, and impulses without acting on them immediately. This practice strengthens mental discipline, reduces compulsive reactions, and deepens awareness of what is truly within influence, fostering peace. Celebrate moments of acceptance. Each time you respond to life with composure rather than attempting to control, you reinforce mental habits that support serenity. Recognition of progress strengthens resolve and builds confidence in your capacity to navigate uncertainty. Learning to enjoy uncertainty transforms perspective. Life's unpredictability can feel threatening or exciting depending on mindset. Embrace uncertainty as opportunity for growth, creativity, and discovery. Releasing the need to control outcomes fosters flexibility, curiosity, and inner peace, turning potential stress into empowerment. Commitment to ongoing self-observation is essential. Life constantly presents new challenges that trigger old control patterns. Maintain vigilance over thoughts, reactions, and tendencies. Continuous awareness allows early intervention before control impulses dominate, reinforcing consistent inner calm and clarity. Over time, shifting focus from control to inner peace transforms life. Stress decreases, relationships improve, and decisions become more effective. Energy previously wasted on managing others and circumstances is now directed toward growth, contribution, and self-mastery. Life becomes less chaotic and more harmonious. True strength is measured by the ability to remain calm amidst uncertainty. Control is a trap that consumes energy and creates frustration. Inner peace emerges from self-mastery, acceptance, detachment from outcomes, and alignment with value. The mind becomes a stable center in a world of change, resilient to external turbulence. Freedom from the need to control fosters creativity, presence, and resilience. When the mind is calm, solutions appear more clearly, actions are more deliberate, and relationships are more genuine. Energy flows to what matters instead of being trapped in futile efforts to manipulate circumstances. Shifting focus from control to inner peace is a lifelong practice. Situations will test patience, challenges will arise, and impulses will tempt you to micromanage. Yet each conscious choice to observe, accept, and respond intentionally strengthens calm, clarity, and resilience. Over time, a life grounded in inner peace replaces stress-driven control with confidence, freedom, and fulfillment.
Chapter 8. Learn to pause before reacting to everything around you. People spend much of their lives reacting to situations almost automatically. A text arrives, and they respond impulsively. A criticism lands, and anger flares immediately. A challenge emerges, and anxiety dictates their actions. Living this way creates constant stress, confusion, and conflict. Reacting without pause means you are being driven by circumstance rather than guiding your life with intention. Every moment presents a choice. You can act on impulse, or you can pause, reflect, and respond thoughtfully. Learning to pause before reacting is one of the most powerful skills for personal growth, emotional stability, and effective decision-making. The first step in learning to pause is awareness. Most reactions happen without conscious thought. People act first and reflect later. Notice the physical sensations that accompany reactions: tightening in the chest, clenching of fists, rapid heartbeat, or tension in the jaw. These signals indicate that a reaction is underway. By recognizing these early signs, you gain the opportunity to insert a pause before acting. Awareness is the foundation of deliberate response. The second step is acknowledging emotion. Reactions are almost always driven by feelings: anger, fear, frustration, excitement, or desire. Instead of suppressing emotions or allowing them to dominate, simply identify them. Say to yourself, "I feel anger," or "I notice fear." This labeling creates space between the emotion and the action. Recognizing the feeling does not eliminate it, but allows the mind to choose the next step consciously, rather than being pulled by instinct. Breathing is a practical tool to create pause. Deep, slow breaths signal to the body and mind that it is safe to slow down. The simple act of breathing deliberately interrupts the automatic chain reaction of impulse and emotion. Even 1 or 2 intentional breaths can reduce tension, clear the mind, and provide clarity about how to respond. Breathing is a bridge from chaos to conscious choice. Reflection follows awareness and emotional recognition. Ask yourself, what is truly happening? Is this situation urgent? Is a reaction necessary? What is within your control? Reflection slows the process, shifts perspective, and reduces the influence of immediate emotional impulses. Questions like these transform reactive behavior into thoughtful action. Understanding triggers enhances your ability to pause. Certain situations, words, or people reliably elicit strong emotional responses. Identifying these triggers gives you advanced notice and prepares you to respond intentionally. When you know what sparks anger, fear, or frustration, you can plan in advance how to navigate the moment without letting instinct take over. Awareness of triggers is a form of preemptive control over reaction. Patience is an essential skill. Modern life often rewards speed, but rushing through interactions and decisions increases the likelihood of unhelpful reactions. Learning to pause cultivates patience. It is not a delay of action for its own sake, but a conscious interval to consider options, potential consequences, and value. Patience allows you to respond in ways that serve long-term goals rather than short-term impulses. Self-compassion supports the process of pausing. Many people judge themselves harshly for reacting impulsively in the past or worry about how others perceive their hesitation. Treat yourself kindly. Recognize that learning to pause is a skill developed over time. Mistakes are part of growth. Gentle self-awareness reduces anxiety about pausing and strengthens the habit of conscious response. Observation of the environment is critical. Pausing provides the opportunity to gather information, see the full picture, and avoid acting on partial understanding. Most impulsive reactions come from incomplete information or assumptions. When you pause, you allow clarity to enter. You notice nuances in tone, context, and intention that guide a more effective response. Mindfulness strengthens the ability to pause. Practicing attention to the present moment reduces automatic reaction. By focusing on what is happening right now, you slow the pull of habitual impulses. Mindfulness does not eliminate emotion or instinct, but enhances the capacity to insert conscious choice between stimulus and response. Consistent practice increases resilience and clarity in all interactions. Intentional language is important when pausing. Reacting often leads to saying things that harm relationships or create conflict. When you pause, choose words carefully. Consider how your response aligns with your values, objectives, and long-term relations. Thoughtful communication prevents unnecessary regret and fosters respect from others. Pausing allows speech to reflect intention rather than raw emotion. Journaling and reflection after events strengthen this skill. Reflect on moments where reactions occurred, both successful and impulsive. Analyze what triggered the response, what the consequence was, and how a pause might have changed the outcome. Writing these reflections trains the mind to recognize patterns and reinforces deliberate behavior. Learning from past reactions ensures continuous growth. Visualization helps train the mind to pause, mentally rehearse scenarios that typically provoke strong reactions. Imagine encountering these situations, feeling the impulse, and choosing to pause and respond calmly. This mental practice prepares the brain to act intentionally when the real moment arises. Visualization creates familiarity with conscious response, reducing the instinct to react impulsively. Physical cues support the pause. Some people develop small rituals to create a break before reacting. This could be touching a finger to your hand, stepping back, or counting silently. Physical cues create a tangible interruption of automatic behavior, allowing the mind and body to align with deliberate action. Such rituals anchor the habit of pausing in everyday life. Boundaries contribute to the ability to pause. When you overcommit or allow constant intrusion from external pressures, reactions are more frequent and intense. Establishing boundaries around time, energy, and interactions reduces stress and creates space to respond thoughtfully. Boundaries protect mental clarity, making the pause natural rather than forced. Reframing situations encourages a constructive response. When faced with challenges, consciously consider alternative interpretations. Ask, what is another way to see this? Or what can I learn here? Reframing reduces emotional intensity and opens space for measured response. The pause becomes an opportunity to shift perspective rather than merely delay reaction. Emotional regulation underpins the ability to pause. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, and self-awareness strengthen control over impulses. The more familiar you are with your internal state, the easier it is to insert a pause before action. Developing emotional resilience ensures that reactions are not driven by immediate highs or lows, but by informed judgment. Recognizing consequences enhances the pause. Consider what your reaction will produce: impact on relationships, work, health, or reputation. Pausing allows foresight. Instant reactions often ignore long-term effects. By evaluating potential outcomes, you can respond in ways that align with goals and values, rather than creating preventable problems.
Accountability reinforces skill development. Share your goal of pausing before reacting with a trusted friend or mentor. Seek feedback on moments where you succeeded or slipped. External observation provides perspective, strengthens awareness, and encourages consistent practice. Accountability transforms a concept into a reliable behavioral skill. Practice small moments of pause daily. Not every situation is high stakes, but every interaction is an opportunity to train the mind. Pausing while waiting in line, responding to email, or engaging in casual conversation builds the habit. The cumulative effect of these small practices strengthens the ability to pause in more challenging situations. Gratitude aids deliberate response. Focusing on what is positive in any situation reduces emotional reactivity. When you notice what is going well, the intensity of impulsive reactions diminishes. Gratitude shifts the mind toward balance, perspective, and calm, enhancing the ability to pause. Learning to pause strengthens relationships. Most conflicts arise from immediate reactions rather than intentional dialogue. By inserting a moment to reflect before speaking, you create space for understanding, empathy, and constructive communication. The habit of pausing reduces unnecessary tension and fosters trust and respect in interactions. Trust in your judgment grows as you pause consistently. Each deliberate response reinforces confidence in your ability to handle challenges effectively. The mind learns that patience produces better results than impulsivity, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of calm, thoughtful behavior. Pausing also protects your mental energy. Reacting to everything around you depletes focus and creates stress. When you pause, you conserve energy, direct it to meaningful action, and maintain clarity. Energy once wasted on reflexive behavior is now available for growth, creativity, and intentional problem solving. Practice patience with yourself. Learning to pause is not instantaneous. Habits of impulsivity are deeply ingrained. Small steps, repeated consistently, strengthen the neural pathways that support deliberate action. Celebrate progress and maintain persistence, knowing that each pause reinforces long-term improvement. Observation enhances pattern recognition. By pausing, you notice recurring triggers, habitual reactions, and emotional tendencies. Understanding these patterns allows for preemptive strategies, reducing impulsivity over time. Awareness transforms reactive habits into conscious choices. Pause before technology-driven reaction. Notifications, messages, and social media provoke immediate impulses. Developing the habit of pausing before responding reduces unnecessary emotional escalation and allows reasoned communication. Digital interactions are a modern training ground for deliberate response. In high-pressure situations, the pause is a shield. When decisions carry weight, reacting instantly often leads to mistakes. Pausing creates space for analysis, consultation, and calm judgment. High-stakes environments demand this skill, and practice in daily life prepares you to deploy it effectively. Over time, pausing before reaction becomes second nature. Your mind develops the habit of observation, reflection, and measured response. Automatic impulsivity diminishes, and life becomes less chaotic. Emotional stability improves, relationships strengthen, and decision-making becomes more reliable. The pause allows you to align action with value. Reacting without thought may satisfy immediate impulse, but often conflicts with long-term goals or principles. Inserting a pause ensures that your behavior reflects integrity and purpose, creating consistency between what you believe and what you do. Learning to pause enhances problem solving. When you act impulsively, solutions are often partial or ineffective. Pausing allows the brain to process information fully, consider alternatives, and choose the most effective course of action. The quality of decisions improves, and outcomes become more predictable and aligned with intention. Pausing is an act of self-respect. It signals that your response matters enough to consider that you control your actions, rather than being a slave to circumstance. Every moment you insert a pause strengthens autonomy, reinforces awareness, and builds confidence in your ability to navigate life effectively. Finally, the pause is a practice of freedom. It liberates you from automatic reactions, emotional hijacking, and impulsive patterns. By consistently observing, reflecting, and responding thoughtfully, you cultivate a life where decisions emerge from clarity, actions align with values, and interactions are deliberate. Mastering the pause transforms stress into calm, chaos into order, and reaction into purposeful living.
Chapter 9. See how your thoughts create the reality you live in. Most people go through life without realizing how much their thoughts shape their experience. They see circumstances as random or blame outside factors for their happiness, stress, or limitations. Yet, everything you experience begins in your mind. Thoughts influence your emotions, decisions, actions, and perception of the world. Your reality is not a fixed stage that events happen upon. It is a reflection of the mental landscape you cultivate daily. Understanding this connection is critical because it empowers you to consciously create a life aligned with your goals, values, and potential. The first step is awareness of thought patterns. Observe the conversations happening inside your mind. Are they encouraging or discouraging? Are they constructive or critical? Most people allow negative or unhelpful thoughts to run unchecked, influencing feelings and behaviors without conscious awareness. Recognizing these patterns is the beginning of control. When you see what your mind repeats daily, you understand the starting point for change. Emotions follow thoughts. If your mind dwells on fear, doubt, or resentment, your emotional state reflects that focus. Conversely, cultivating thoughts of possibility, growth, and gratitude generates confidence, optimism, and motivation. You cannot separate thinking from feeling. They are intertwined. When you change the focus of your thoughts, you change the emotional environment in which decisions are made and actions occur. Thoughts influence perception. Two people can experience the same situation but interpret it entirely differently based on their mental state. One sees opportunity where another sees obstacle. One sees learning where another sees failure. The lens through which you view life is constructed by repeated thought patterns. By adjusting what you focus on mentally, you shift the lens and change the way reality presents itself to you. Beliefs are sustained patterns of thought. They shape how you interpret events and dictate automatic responses. A belief like "I am not capable" or "I always fail" limits possibilities because your mind filters experiences to reinforce that assumption. Conversely, beliefs rooted in competence, resilience, and worthiness expand what you perceive as achievable. Your beliefs act as a framework for your reality, determining the actions you take and the outcomes you attract. Language reinforces thought patterns. The words you use with yourself shape mental pathways. Phrases like "I can't" or "I'm not good enough" program the mind toward limitation. Deliberately using empowering language, such as "I can learn" or "I have the skills to handle this," strengthens constructive mental patterns. Language is both a reflection of thought and a tool for shaping it, creating feedback loops that reinforce the reality you experience. Observation of cause and effect clarifies the power of thought. Look at past experiences and notice how recurring thoughts influence decisions, interactions, and opportunities. Perhaps persistent self-doubt caused hesitation or avoidance. Maybe repeated optimism encouraged risk-taking and success. Tracking these connections shows that what you think daily is not theoretical, it directly creates outcomes. Inner dialogue matters. Most people engage in self-talk without noticing its tone or content. This dialogue sets the stage for emotion and behavior. When inner commentary is critical, reactive, or fearful, actions tend to align with those states. When self-talk is supportive, clear, and focused on solutions, behavior follows accordingly. Choosing the quality of internal dialogue is a practical way to shape reality intention. Attention shapes mental focus. Your brain acts like a spotlight, amplifying what you notice and minimizing what you ignore. If attention is constantly directed toward fear, scarcity, or limitation, those become your lived experience. If attention is directed toward growth, learning, and opportunity, your reality shifts accordingly. What you focus on grows, literally and figuratively, influencing choices, relationships, and outcomes. Visualization strengthens thought influence. Imagine desired outcomes in vivid detail. The mind responds to these internal images as practice or rehearsal, activating neural pathways and preparing behavior to align with those possibilities. Visualization is not wishful thinking. It is mental training that bridges the gap between intention and action. Consistent practice shapes perception, decisions, and results. Habits of thought reinforce reality. Automatic thinking patterns emerge from repetition. If you habitually anticipate problems, interpret situations negatively, or doubt your abilities, you attract stress and limitation. Habits of optimism, curiosity, and solution-oriented thinking build a reality rich in possibility and resilience. Attention to habitual thoughts allows you to retrain the mind toward constructive patterns. Mental filters determine what you notice. Most people unconsciously filter experiences through bias, fear, or habit, focusing on threats or problems. This creates a reality dominated by stress and limitation. Consciously shifting your filters to observe opportunities, strength, and solutions transforms your perception and guides more effective action. The external world may not change, but your experience of it does. Repetition solidifies thought impact. A single positive thought may uplift momentarily, but repeated thoughts shape your consistent perception. Repeating empowering, constructive, and goal-oriented thoughts programs the mind for action, aligned with those patterns. Conversely, repeated negative thinking embeds limitation and stress. Repetition is the mechanism through which thoughts become the blueprint of reality. Decision-making demonstrates thought power. Every choice reflects underlying beliefs and assumptions. A person convinced of scarcity may avoid opportunities, while one convinced of potential seeks and acts decisively. By refining thought patterns and beliefs, you influence decisions, which directly create outcomes. What you think sets the parameters for what you do. Expectation influences experience. When you expect disappointment, conflict, or failure, your mind subconsciously selects information that confirms that view. Expectation shapes attention, behavior, and interaction with the world. Positive expectation, when combined with deliberate action, attracts outcomes aligned with growth and success. Changing expectations through conscious thought transforms lived experience. Mental rehearsal reduces fear. Anticipating challenges through constructive thinking allows you to prepare emotionally and strategically. Instead of reacting with panic or hesitation, you approach situations with clarity and confidence. Thought-driven rehearsal equips the mind to interpret reality as navigable rather than threatening, directly influencing results. Awareness of mental influence allows course correction. Observe recurring patterns that produce negative consequences. Identify habitual thoughts that lead to anxiety, avoidance, or poor outcomes. Recognize which thought patterns consistently generate success, focus, and calm. This awareness provides an opportunity to reinforce productive patterns and redirect limiting ones, consciously shaping experience. Curiosity strengthens the connection between thought and reality. Question assumptions, beliefs, and interpretations. Ask whether the way you view a situation
Action serves your growth or reinforces limitation. Inquiry opens pathways to perspective change, allowing thought to create reality, consciously rather than unconsciously. Curiosity cultivates flexibility in thinking, which expands the range of outcomes you can generate. Gratitude alters perception. Regularly noticing and appreciating what is positive creates mental patterns that highlight abundance and possibility. Gratitude shifts the brain to recognize resources, opportunities, and support that were previously unnoticed. This simple practice transforms the subjective experience of reality from lack to sufficiency and optimism. Emotional intelligence enhances thought effectiveness. Awareness of feelings allows you to understand how thoughts shape emotional responses and behavior. By recognizing how fear, anger, or doubt emerge from specific thoughts, you can interrupt unhelpful patterns and guide mental focus toward constructive responses. Managing emotion through thought shapes both internal experience and external reality. Belief in agency is foundational. When you understand that thoughts influence outcomes, you accept responsibility for your experiences. External circumstances may be challenging, but internal patterns of thought determine how you respond, perceive, and act. Agency empowers you to create a reality aligned with intention rather than drift in reaction to circumstance. Mental clarity strengthens influence over reality. A cluttered, distracted mind reacts impulsively, magnifying problems and missing opportunity. Focused thinking, prioritized attention, and clear intentions guide behavior effectively. Clarity of thought ensures that actions reflect goals and values, shaping reality purposefully. Observation of feedback loops reinforces learning. Notice how specific thoughts generate predictable emotions, actions, and results. For instance, worry may produce hesitation, which produces missed opportunities. Optimism may produce persistence, which produces progress. Understanding these loops allows you to reinforce productive thoughts and diminish limiting ones, shaping outcomes with precision. Consistency builds long-term influence. One positive thought or action is fleeting. Repeated, intentional thinking shapes perception, behavior, and outcomes reliably. Daily attention to constructive thought patterns transforms habits, character, and life circumstances over time. Consistency transforms abstract ideas into tangible results. Self-talk drives motivation. Thoughts that encourage effort, focus, and resilience generate actions aligned with success. Negative self-talk generates hesitation, avoidance, or self-sabotage. Controlling internal dialogue allows conscious shaping of effort and results, which ultimately constructs reality. Visualization and affirmation together amplify influence. Mentally seeing desired outcomes, while reinforcing belief through affirmations, strengthens neural pathways, enhances focus, and motivates action. The mind begins to behave in ways consistent with the desired reality. Thoughts prime behavior, and behavior shapes results. Observation of mental patterns allows early intervention. Detect when thoughts drift toward fear, doubt, or negativity. Redirect focus intentionally toward solutions, opportunity, and learning. Early redirection prevents unhelpful patterns from manifesting as limiting behaviors or distorted perceptions. Maintaining a constructive alignment between mind and reality. Action grounded in thought completes the process. Thinking alone is insufficient if it does not guide behavior. Thoughts generate actions that shape circumstances. When thought is deliberate, aligned with values, and reinforced through consistency, behavior becomes the vehicle through which reality is transformed. Social perception is influenced by thought patterns. How you interpret others' behavior, respond to challenges, and engage with opportunities is filtered through mental frameworks. Adjusting thought patterns changes social interactions, opens possibilities, and creates more favorable outcomes. Mental perspective shapes relational reality as much as internal experience. Mindset shapes resilience. Thoughts about challenges determine whether obstacles feel insurmountable or solvable. A growth-oriented mindset, built through constructive thinking, produces persistence, creativity, and confidence, which generate tangible results. The way you think creates both experience and capacity for action. Time spent reflecting strengthens thought awareness. Daily reflection on decisions, emotions, and outcomes reveals connections between thinking patterns and reality. Journaling, meditation, or quiet contemplation reinforces learning and strengthens conscious control over mental habits. Awareness guides adjustment, which guides outcome. Finally, understanding that your thoughts create reality transforms life. You are not a passive observer of circumstances. Thoughts, repeated and refined, shape emotions, actions, decisions, perceptions, and results. By observing, directing, and refining thought, you become the architect of your experience, capable of building a life aligned with purpose, growth, and fulfillment.
Chapter 10. Choose awareness over autopilot and take back your mind. Most people move through life on autopilot without realizing it. They wake up, follow routines, make decisions based on habit, and let circumstances dictate their day. Minds get hijacked by distraction, emotion, and external pressures. Weeks, months, and years pass with limited conscious awareness, and people wonder why their life feels unfulfilled or out of control. Autopilot keeps you stuck in patterns, reacting to life instead of guiding it. Choosing awareness over autopilot is the most powerful step to reclaim your mind, take control of your life, and create results that align with your purpose. The first step is observing daily routines. Pay attention to what you do automatically from the moment you wake to when you go to bed. Notice habits, responses, and decisions that happen without conscious thought. This awareness reveals how much of your life is driven by default settings rather than intentional choice. Observation is the foundation for change because you cannot direct what you do not see. Next is identifying mental triggers. Autopilot often responds to cues without your awareness, notifications, people, situations, or repetitive thoughts. Recognize what prompts habitual responses. Is it checking your phone first thing in the morning, reacting angrily to criticism, or skipping important tasks out of habit? Identifying triggers gives you the opportunity to insert conscious awareness where it is most needed. Awareness begins with the body. Physical sensations are indicators of mental and emotional states. Notice tension in the shoulders, a racing heartbeat, or shallow breathing. These are signals that autopilot is reacting. Paying attention to your body creates a bridge between automatic responses and conscious decision-making. Awareness grows when you include both mind and body in observation. Mindfulness strengthens your ability to stay present. Engaging fully with the moment, observing thoughts, feelings, and surroundings without judgment interrupts habitual reactions. Mindfulness is not passive, it is active noticing. When you are mindful, you make choices from clarity rather than habit. Each moment you practice mindfulness strengthens neural pathways for deliberate action and mental control. Interrupt automatic thought patterns. Thoughts repeat like loops, often unnoticed. Autopilot thrives on repetition, taking over decision-making without evaluation. Pause when a familiar pattern arises. Ask if the thought serves your goals, values, and well-being. Interrupting automatic mental loops allows you to redirect focus to constructive, intentional thinking. Choice is central to reclaiming your mind. Even small decisions reinforce either autopilot or awareness. Choosing how to respond to messages, challenges, or tasks builds the muscle of conscious decision-making. Every deliberate choice strengthens awareness and weakens habitual reaction. The more consistently you exercise this, the more automatic awareness becomes, creating a virtuous cycle of mental control. Reflection enhances understanding of autopilot. At the end of the day, review your actions, decisions, and emotions. Identify moments where you acted automatically, and moments where awareness guided you. Reflection shows patterns, highlights opportunities for change, and reinforces the value of conscious living. This practice turns experience into insight, building intentional living into habit. Internal dialogue drives awareness. Notice the tone and content of self-talk. Autopilot often repeats unexamined phrases like, "I can't handle this," or "I'm too busy." By observing and modifying inner dialogue, you redirect mental energy toward constructive thinking. Self-talk shapes perception, focus, and behavior, so cultivating intentional dialogue is essential for reclaiming the mind. Setting boundaries protects mental space. Autopilot thrives in cluttered, reactive environments. Reduce unnecessary obligations, distractions, and inputs that hijack attention. Limit exposure to negative influences, overwhelming media, or unhelpful commentary. Boundaries create a mental environment conducive to focus, clarity, and conscious choice. Protecting your mind is a prerequisite for sustained awareness. Prioritize actions consciously. Instead of responding to every demand or impulse, choose what matters most in alignment with your goal. Prioritization ensures energy is spent on meaningful activity rather than habitual reactive tasks. Deliberate action reinforces awareness and reduces the likelihood of drifting through life on autopilot. Emotions are signals, not commands. Autopilot often reacts immediately to feelings without reflection. Awareness requires noticing emotions, naming them, and deciding how to act. Anger, fear, frustration, or excitement need observation before response. By separating feeling from reaction, you reclaim control and respond effectively, rather than impulsively. Develop mental pauses, simple moments of interruption before acting or speaking, create space for conscious choice. Pauses prevent habitual reactions, reduce regret, and allow thoughtful responses. Pausing is a practical, trainable skill that strengthens awareness over time. Each pause reinforces the ability to live intentionally, rather than reactive. Habits are the structure of daily life, but they must be intentional. Autopilot relies on repetitive routines that do not serve growth or purpose. Evaluate habits for alignment with values and goals. Replace unhelpful habits with constructive routines that reinforce conscious living. Habit redesign is the bridge between awareness and action. Visualization trains the mind. Imagine yourself responding thoughtfully instead of reacting automatically in situations where autopilot usually takes over. Rehearse clarity, patience, and purposeful action. Mental rehearsal primes the brain to act intentionally, making awareness more accessible in real-life scenarios. Journaling captures progress. Writing down observations, decisions, emotional patterns, and moments of awareness strengthens memory and reinforces mental habits. It also provides evidence of growth over time, making the value of awareness tangible. Reflection through writing cements the connection between intention and action. Environment shapes mind control. Surround yourself with cues that support conscious decision-making. Reduce triggers for autopilot by organizing your space, structuring your day, and removing distractions. A supportive environment makes awareness easier to maintain and autopilot less dominant. Focus on long-term vision. Autopilot prioritizes immediate gratification or avoidance of discomfort. Awareness requires aligning daily actions with long-term goals and values.
Keep a clear vision of what you want to achieve and let it guide decisions. This alignment ensures that each choice strengthens growth and purpose rather than feeding reactive patterns. Learning to question assumptions expands consciousness. Autopilot thrives on unexamined beliefs. Challenge habitual assumptions about people, situations, or yourself. Ask whether these thoughts are true, helpful, or productive. Questioning creates mental flexibility and empowers you to act based on observation rather than default belief. Gratitude reinforces awareness. Taking notice of what you already have shifts focus from autopilot responses to conscious appreciation.